and welcome to Fact Schmacks. It's a podcast good enough to get you a C.
Minus.
My name's Matt, and I've got a story to tell you.
And my name's Kev. I have a story to interrupt.
Well, Kevin.
Well, Matthew.
How's your week been, buddy?
Pretty good. Aside from the whole World War III thing today.
So, yeah, as we're recording this on February 24th in 2022, Russia has just invaded the Ukraine, which we around here don't think is very cool at all.
No. No bueno.
No bueno at all.
And not a joking matter in any way, even though we're fools.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about it too much, but,
Yeah, it's...
Figured we'd bring it up.
Yeah, a lot of people are hurting right now, and that's awful. If you've got some spare dollars you can throw around, there's organizations that are doing good things in that area. If you could spare some money their ways, I don't have any in particular to highlight there. But that's a terrible thing that's going on right now, and it's kind of the elephant in the room. So, got to address that. Yeah.
And now, on to the absurdity.
Yes.
That's our PSA for the day.
Uh-huh.
Probably for life.
Kev, you got some facts and maybe a schmack to maybe provide some levity here?
I do have a little fact schmack scheme for you, Matthew. Oh. I know how much you look forward to it.
I do, and it's been 2 weeks. Yeah,
2 blissful weeks of you being in another country.
Oh, it was great. I was only in another country for 1 week, so technically.
I know, but it felt like 2. It just was so great.
I missed you, buddy.
I missed you too. I'm happy to see you back. I'm happy to see that you're not an actual lobster like I thought you would come back just roasted.
Well, it's like I came back last Thursday, so this is a week separated from how red I was.
Yeah, I mean you are the most colored I've ever seen you, and I did still have to turn down the gamma on my screen to just
there is something
so you can actually see your features.
There is. I mean, they tell you, like, if you're Canadian and you go to Mexico, they tell you you're gonna get a sunburn, like, no matter what you do. And there is something like the sun is different there than it is here. It's wild. I've never had to look at the instructions on a sunscreen bottle before. Turns out you have to apply that stuff like every 80 minutes while you're there. You got to set your alarm.
What?
Yeah. It's
really.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then the last day we let our guard down thinking like, well, I've got a good base. I can put sunscreen on in the morning and maybe only put it back on halfway through the day. Roasted. Right. Absolutely roasted.
Wow.
Just got burned. That was my one Mexico blunder. Only one Mexico blunder.
So the whole time you're there, I'm just picturing you as just this greasy, sliding dude. Like you slide off almost every chair you sit on.
It turns out Mexico Matt likes 2 things. Mexico Matt likes drinking beer all day, and Mexico Matt likes water slides.
That's not terribly far off from Canadian Matt.
Well, that poor lifeguard who's like 20 up there, seeing me saunter up the stairs every 10 to 20 minutes. Hola, amigo, I am back.
Did you pick up any Spanish down there?
Just hola and buenos dias, gracias. Just enough to
just
say
enough
hi.
To get by.
Yeah, enough to say hi and thank people.
That's cool.
Yeah, cerveza. Other than that, like
Corona.
It was. There was like a lot of people did not speak really any English, but it was good.
Well, that's fun. Now you're back, and also now that you're back, so our last 2 episodes we didn't go too crazy on the Fact Schmack thing. We have another competition beginning here.
Yep.
So best 3 out of 5.
Yep.
The slate is clear right now.
Yep.
Matt is the dunce.
Yep. Current dunce
of this round. So I guess we'll just we'll get rolling with
currently
it. Currently
holding the D, we'll say.
holding the D on the show about the C.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to an Apple store today. You know that because I messaged you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at the Apple store, I started thinking, I don't know a lot about Apple. And I don't think Matt knows a lot about Apple either. So I did a little digging. Okay?
Got a little investigative.
A little investigative. Now, just so you know, my schmack turned out to be true in a rare departure from form. I looked up the schmack right before we did the show and found out it's actually a fact. So that's going to be Kev's closing fact today. Just a little teaser for everybody who probably isn't going to stick around for the whole show. Anyhow, fact or schmacked. With the first iPod, there was an Easter egg. If you held down the center button while on the About menu, a game would pop up. The game was called Breakout, and it was similar to kind of the, like the brick style Pong type game where you shoot the thing up.
Yeah, I know what a Breakout
is. It was originally made by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak when they worked at Atari.
Okay.
So that's your first fact or schmack.
Yeah.
Your second one, Apple Siri was originally developed in connection with DARPA.
Okay.
And your third fact or schmack, Steve Jobs also has white turtlenecks, but only wears them around the house on Sundays.
Well, I know that the third one is the schmacked, and I can tell you why. I can tell you why I know that the third one's a schmacked.
Why is that?
Because he's dead. He doesn't wear them at all now.
Well, I mean, when he was alive. But you knew what it was, because it was just plain silly.
So Siri was
the first one.
Huh. The thing that surprised me about the first one is I didn't know that Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs designed the original Breakout.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That surprises me.
Yeah. I mean, according to the internet.
Well, and when has the internet ever lied? Literally never.
Never. So, yeah, that's kind of neat, isn't it, about Apple and Siri.
Yeah.
DARPA,
Doesn't surprise me.
No.
A lot of stuff is military tech before it's consumer tech.
Yeah, and so it was originally kind of like it was developed, it was going to go on after the DARPA thing. The company that owned it, I can't remember what it is, but its initials basically break down to Siri. And it was supposed to be released on like Android and BlackBerry phones as well. But Apple basically bought it up.
Oh, okay.
Made it exclusive.
Right.
And that's why it's Siri. I can't remember the exact name, but it was pretty close to the same initials.
Didn't they they basically scooped up all the people who made BBM. And that's why iMessage is real good. Remember BBM?
BlackBerry messaging?
Yeah, it was good
like
BlackBerry back in the day. But yeah. I had a BlackBerry.
That doesn't surprise me. I think a lot of these tech companies, like Google is so good because it's bought so many cool IPs, right? Like it bought Boston Dynamics.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a super cool, Google could potentially have the coolest robots.
Sure, that'll break down your door.
Oh my god, are they horrifying?
Haul you off to the produce camps.
Yeah, whenever I think it was New York or something, and they tried to have that dog be like a patrol dog.
Oh, terrifying.
Or something, and people were like, fuck no.
No,
that's some Black Mirror shit right there.
I didn't vote for robot police. Are you kidding?
No. Do you ever watch that Black Mirror show on Netflix?
No. Have not.
You should check it out.
I should.
Do you know what it is?
I know generally I have heard of things.
It's like a modern day Twilight Zone.
Oh.
It's like future tech stuff.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it's super creepy. I bet if I was a betting man, I would bet that you've got a story for me and somebody dies today.
Oh, Kevin.
Not a happy story today?
Remember,
when we need a happy story?
Remember when we were talking...
Why can't you be our hero?
The hero we need? Remember
the hero we need.
When we were talking about the Donner Party and we were talking about how, like, if a place gets named after you, it's not great, right?
Okay.
Well, what if the place that gets named after you, before it gets named after you, was called Dead Mountain? How good of a thing do you think happens to you at that point?
Oh.
So, a group of hikers who set off in the late 50s weren't probably really thinking about that. They might have been thinking about the name Dead Mountain, but they probably weren't thinking about the fact that in 50 years, people were going to know that particular region by the name of the person who is leading this expedition, a guy named Igor Dyatlov.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, is this the Dyatlov Pass?
This is the Dyatlov Pass.
Oh, God damn, this story fascinates me.
Right? This is a great little mystery, right? These
I love it.
10 people set out on a skiing exposition. They leave the town of Vizhai, which I'm probably saying wrong, in the northwest part of Russia. Within one day, one of the members has to leave, but a few days later, they make it to the Dead Mountain. And they had told the guy who was leaving that they should be through, the rest of their trip by February 2nd, I think they had said. But, maybe bad weather's going to hold us up. So that date comes and goes, and nobody really thinks too much of the fact that they haven't made contact with anybody. But about a week later, they start getting really antsy. And, well, about 2 weeks after that, a search party is launched. So they found the camp. The tent was covered in a thin layer of snow with most of the belongings still inside of it. Notably, the tent was set up on the side of the slope of a mountain, but it hadn't been set up, so that it was on an angle. They had dug into the snow to kind of make a flat spot and kind of pitch their tent there. There's actually a picture they took of themselves digging this little snow platform for themselves. Good English from me. More notably, I think, from what everyone knows about this story, the tent had been cut open from the inside. There were 9 pairs of footprints found in the snow leading away from the tent. And the prints were light in the snow. They hadn't been pounded in or anything. It really kind of suggested that people had walked away and kind of calmly. They hadn't, run away in a panic, which is odd, right? It's one of the odd things about this story.
There's a lot of odd things about this.
Well, let's talk about the bodies. The first 2 bodies.
Wait. Sorry, one sec. How many people were on this expedition?
There were 10 people left. One person turned away.
Had turned back.
Yeah.
So there's 10 people in one tent?
Yeah.
Okay.
I imagine it was a big tent.
I imagine it smelled.
Oh, I bet.
Ugh.
Imagine that. Speaking of things that smelled, this is 2 weeks later. They found the first 2 bodies. Oh, boy. Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. But I'm going to try for each one of these people because you know what?
I'm glad that you do. They deserve it.
They deserve it, absolutely. They were found at the outskirts of the tree line about 1.5 kilometers away from the camp. They had made a little makeshift fireplace, and they were nearly naked. They had burn marks on them. And the tree that they were found under had branches broken up to 5 meters high. But they had died from...
That's 25 feet.
Yeah, pretty high, right?
Yeah.
They had died of hypothermia, but that's how they were found. It seemed like they had lit a fire and tried to get closer and closer to it and probably burned themselves at the end. The next 3 were found between that tree and the actual original campsite. It was Igor Dyatlov was one of them, Zinaida Kolmogrova, and Rustim Slobodin. They were all facing towards the camp like they were trying to make their way back, maybe to grab supplies or something.
Oh, man, that's like, the story's so creepy.
I know, they'd made it,
like when you picture it.
Yeah. They'd made it like 300 and 450 and 600 meters respectively of the 1.5 kilometers.
So they were kind of staggered then.
Yeah. So they were staggered in the snow and just died trying to make.
How far apart from each other?
Just judging by that, like maybe 150 meters away from each other each.
Yeah, so like towards the camp, but like were they like, had they been walking together, or was there like 20 feet between each of them?
I think I get the impression that maybe they'd set off together and maybe they just dropped one by one. And life, death, you can't leave them behind, or you can't stick around because then you're dead too, and not like it mattered.
All right, and so the first 2 guys are naked and burned.
Yeah, these guys,
these guys are naked.
They're dressed better. These guys are dressed noticeably better. And then there's the last 4 bodies: Semyon Zolotaryov, Nikolai Thibaut Brignoles, Lyudmila Dubinya, and Alexander Kolevatov. This is probably, that borders on disrespectful the way I'm trouncing all over those names. But again, these people, I do mean this is a sign of respect. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
It took 4 months.
It's not good.
It's not good.
Much like,
my best is not.
Much like kind of how we
not good enough.
Our listeners know that. They don't expect much from us.
It took 4 months to find these people. They were
4
buried.
months?
Yeah, 4 months. They were buried under 3 meters of snow, kind of in the opposite direction from the tree, further into the forest. 3 of them had serious injuries. 2 had internal chest injuries, and 1 had a skull fracture, and I think some chest injuries as well. This group was wearing clothes from the first 2 groups, suggesting that they had maybe taken the clothes off people who had perished and maybe went further into the forest to try and find more shelter that way.
Okay, wait. I thought you said... So, the first people who were found were far away from the tent that was on the hill.
Yeah, just the order in which they were found.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were the most naked.
The most naked, and they were the closest to the tent?
No, they're 1.5 kilometers away. The people who were found...
1.5 kilometers from... Okay.
Yeah.
The people, and then the people going near the tent.
Yeah.
And these final 4 people were found months after?
Yeah.
And they were at the original tent?
No, they were...
Site?
They were...
I'm sorry, I missed that.
So the people, picture the people at the tree, where the first 2 bodies are found. 3 of them go back towards the tent. 4 of them went in the total opposite direction, further into the forest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They found them under 3 meters of snow, with serious injuries, wearing clothes from the first 2 groups. So suggesting that they had taken clothes, like maybe on the way out of the tent they had grabbed some clothes from this person or that person, or they had stripped.
Came across the bodies and were like, well,
yeah,
we don't need it.
The person with the head, the fractured skull, also had the eyes and lips and tongue missing from their body. But again, 4 months later, so
Yeah. So who knows?
That's one of the famous details there. More famously, there was traces of radiation found on the clothing of 2 of these people.
Just 2, though.
What's that?
Just the 2.
Just 2, yeah. Some people had reported seeing lights in the skies in the area roughly at the time. It happened in Soviet Russia, so communism and secrecy and all that being what it is. There was no obvious signs of an avalanche like you would expect. And the police investigation wrapped up, saying the hikers were met with an unknown compelling force that the hikers were unable to overcome.
Okay.
So that's kind of the whole story. That's what we
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that where it was left?
Well, that's the story as it stood, right? So there's two big questions that come out of this, because there's a lot of theories.
I have more than two for the record.
Well, there's two. Well, any theory that comes along that's going to address what happened there has two fundamental questions that it's grappling with. What got them out of the tent and into 40-degree weather quickly enough, or minus 40-degree weather, quickly enough so that they were not even dressed, which most people would understand to be basically suicide. And then what happened once they were out there to get them into the various places that they were in, right?
Okay.
So I got a list of theories here that we can kind of go through
that
and
people have come up with.
Yeah. And we're gonna start with the stuff that's maybe a little less plausible and work our way towards the stuff that's a little more plausible.
Hold up one sec.
Yeah.
I need to ask you one important question.
Okay.
On your list,
Yeah.
Is there a Sasquatch, Yeti, or abominable snowman?
Kevin, wouldn't you know it?
There is?
Like I said, that I was ordering these in the order in which I think that they're plausible. The first one.
So that's the most.
Is the Yeti. That's the first one that we're presenting here.
If that's not on there, you have to add it. 'Cause that's what I want added.
No, I had the Yeti.
I want to believe, man.
I had the Yeti, and the Yeti was on the list. I read about the Yeti, and the Yeti was on the list. Yes, some people think that there's a Russian version of the Yeti, the name of which I didn't write down because, research.
Yetievich.
Yeah, something like that. And that's basically as far as the story goes. I mean, they ran into this Yeti. Ipso facto, some people have chest wounds and head wounds. Some people don't and died by a fire. And some people are slightly radioactive. I'm not sure how the Yeti really explains anything other than just Yeti.
Yeah, I think it's like the the Bugs Bunny Yeti. The one who's like, I'm going to love him and hug him and name him George. Like every episode.
I just think of, that was a dog. That wasn't a Yeti.
No, dude, it was the abominable snowman.
No, that was the dog.
Yes, it was.
Well, maybe it was both. But the Yeti, I think, has a fundamental flaw in that, in the same way that the next one on my list here, which is UFOs or aliens.
100% possible.
I mean, sure, but then how does that fit in? What does that actually explain? Walk us through how UFOs leave us with what we wind up with.
Okay, so
this is what I've been looking forward to is having you workshop this.
All right, basically, you got what are the kind of Simpsons ones?
Krang.
Remember their name? Kang and Krang or something
like that. Yeah.
So these two guys roll up. They find these kind of isolated folks. They're sniffing around for some radioactive stuff because, Soviet Russia, nuclear missile test, 50s. Yeah. Totally plausible. So these guys pick up a little bit of radiation on their shirts from some fallout that fell after a nuclear bomb test, right?
Okay.
So the aliens, of course...
But only these two guys. I don't know. They were just standing in just the right spot.
Sure. Yeah, it can happen.
Okay.
Why not? So they just happen to get a little bit on them.
Yeah.
And then they, they could have been at the very, very, very edge of the fallout. Because no matter how unlikely, there's a very, 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 very edge of the fallout where the last couple pieces fall. Totally plausible.
Okay.
So anyhow, aliens pick them up, realize that they're not what they're looking for. These people are so scared as shit. They freak out. They lose their minds. They run and panic. A couple of them are naked because anal probes. A couple of them got burned because they got too close to the exhaust. That explains why, like, the one with all the crush wounds, he got dropped out of the UFO.
Just
took out all the branches on the way down.
But no, because if you hit all the branches, you'd have a bunch of, like, lesions. A bunch of, like, scratches and cuts and stuff. Like, it would be very obvious that you hit a bunch of branches.
Not if you had a force field around you.
Well,
tractor beam. I don't know. Okay, so aliens isn't a legit thing. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, the problem...
I want to believe.
So the problem with the Yeti and aliens is neither have any known characteristics. So it's anybody's guess as to how any of them would work.
Well, it's because
so
they're mysterious.
it's just you can kind of shoehorn them in anywhere. It's not really something you can seriously engage with. But one thing I do want to address here is the radiation thing, because that is something that is, I think, a total red herring. It's a part of the story, and it's an interesting part of the story, but it turns out the two people whose clothes were contaminated were nuclear physicists. They worked in nuclear environments. Their clothes were probably contaminated in those environments, or they were. The actual level of contamination was so... there was 3 articles of clothing. For 2 of them, they were exactly like on the background level of radiation, and one was twice as high as the background level of radiation, but like not high at all. So very,
not
very,
like
very
smoking hot.
No, like extremely, extremely lightly. So they're actually so lightly that there's even just an environmental explanation for it. Could just be like, we're in a particularly irradiated environmental area compared to the rest of the background radiation.
Sure.
Or like, there was other explanations. There was enough environmental explanations that it wasn't anything that raised the investigators' eyes. It's just one of those, like, it adds to the mystery, but it's probably just it was the 50s and these people were working in a Soviet nuclear environment. They probably got slightly contaminated at work.
Yeah, probably not the safest protocols. Even as we've talked about some of the American stuff, like
in that day and age,
go in there and pull this rod up 4 inches,
no further
protective clothing, and so who knows? Okay, fair enough. So
how about
you're gonna rule out 2 of my favorite things?
I know.
Right off the hop.
So how about this
Let's
one?
Let's get into something else.
How about a Soviet weapon test was maybe responsible for what happened?
Tell me more.
There's Soviet bases in the area. The theory goes that there's some sort of explosive device or test or something that injures some of the hikers, or maybe the hikers saw something that they shouldn't have, and as a result they were killed by the military in some strange way, as to, I don't know, leave them the way they were. Now, the police investigator in the story did later say, years later, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, apparently he said he was told by the military to wrap this up, get this wrapped up quickly. But it is also entirely possible that just by the very nature of being right next to these, or very close to these bases, military bases, which were in the area, that, that's just a reason for heightened security in a state that was already famous for its security, for anything that would embarrass the nation happening anywhere. So I don't know how much weight you can really put into that. It doesn't explain,
how close are we talking?
Well, and here's the thing. It doesn't explain how some of the hikers are injured and some are not, right? That still is a weird thing, how some of these hikers get injured.
Yeah, some are hurt, and not like with bullets or traditional, like if you were killed by...
Now, they were found under
forces.
3 meters of snow, and one of the prevailing theories about how they got there is they were looking to build some sort of shelter, and maybe they dug a little bit and the snow shifted under them and they basically fell 3 meters. Which is like 25 feet, maybe enough to maybe get some injuries once you hit the ground. Maybe it was, the snow, there was enough snow there so that they didn't have any obvious contusions, but they just got a lot of internal injuries from it, and that's how that's how they got their injuries. That's the rest of these theories are basically banking on how, except for the very last one, are banking on that's how these people got hurt that way.
Okay.
So I guess the Soviet weapon test doesn't necessarily have to explain that. It just has to get them, or that part of it, but it doesn't explain how they got out of the test other than maybe they heard something that was scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on a Soviet weapon test or some Soviet military involvement?
All right. As much as I want to address that, I have to address this thing that's kind of been nagging at me the whole time.
Okay.
So you're telling me that they find this tent after how long have they been late to report? When did they figure, like, how far in their journey was this? It was supposed to be like a 10-day journey or a 1-week journey?
I think they're a week late to report by the time they send in. It's 2 weeks after. They figured this happened like July 1st, I think, and the search party gets there like 20 days later.
Okay,
so yeah, the
condition. February.
Yeah, the condition of the tent itself, like the snow on top, who knows, like what that means, right?
So I just kind of wonder, like, I'm trying to think of this in my head, like it's July and there's snow because it's in the mountains.
February,
like a mountainous area. You just said July they found. Oh, July they found the bodies.
No, February, and then 2 weeks later, the search party went out. It took then two of the bodies were found 2 months after that. So 2 of the bodies were found in April-ish.
Dude, I swear to God, I thought I heard you say July.
Maybe I did. Sometimes I say words that I don't mean to say.
Sometimes I hear things that might not be there.
Oh boy.
We'll only know back.
Absolutely.
We'll play it back.
Be fun to find out.
We'll find it. Okay, so they leave in February. It's supposed to take them how long to do this? Journey?
I don't know. It was supposed to take them like a week or something.
Okay, so they leave February 2nd. It's supposed to take them a week.
No, they left way before that. They left in like January 27th. Supposed to take them a week. So okay. February 1st was like when they're roughly supposed to check in. February 1st or 2nd. Okay. And then the people who they were supposed to check in with thought, well, maybe they got delayed. And it took them a week from there to really report it.
Okay.
Now, I don't think anyone reporting anything any earlier would help anyone find anything, right? Like,
all right. I've completely fucked up this timeline and made it confusing.
Yep.
So let's just forget about the timeline. Uh-huh. It's about 2 weeks that they're late.
Yes.
So they have, at some point, 2 weeks or more, had this terrible incident, whatever it may be, occur.
Yeah.
In February or January or both, whatever. In Russia.
Yeah.
In a mountainous area or elevated area. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have February, Russia, mountains, snow. And you're telling me that they find light footprints 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
That to me seems weird, man. Like 2 weeks
they can only fall in the middle
of winter.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like, we get snow. You know that you look out your backyard, your dogs put footprints out there that you've probably seen all fucking winter because they get.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. If there wasn't a big snow, you know?
And just like light snow. Like, it just seems to me that a lot of that stuff would have been blown over.
Wow.
But then these other people are under like 3 meters of snow.
Yeah. But they went way
Dude, that's 9 feet of snow.
What's that?
3 meters is 9 feet of snow.
Checks out. Does it?
Like, that's a lot of snow. 9 feet? Thinking 9 feet.
Yeah.
3 feet higher than, like, you or I.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a lot of snow.
It's a lot of snow.
So these guys are under 9 feet of snow. These other guys, we can see their footprints. It's just weird, man. It's really weird how it doesn't really add up. Like,
well, but the snow that they fell into and through could have been there before. The theory is they either fell down like a bank or something, like a river bank or something, or fell through snow.
Yeah, it's just weird to me. It's just weird to think about, like, you know, that these guys are just kind of like hanging out under a tree, and like some of these numbers, like when you say that the branches were snapped off like 25 feet,
yeah,
like 5 meters, right?
Yeah,
or no. Say 5 meters?
Yep, 5 meters.
That's like 15 feet. Like times 3, right?
Sure, I'm not that... Yeah, sure.
So
I'm not here to
feet,
debate the meters and feet with you, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but it's weird to think about, like... I'm not saying... I'm just saying, like, when you think about it, like, who climbs up 15 feet into a tree to break off a branch when you're starving?
Well, or did they fall down
freezing?
When you're freezing? Did they fall down? Were they going up there to get wood for the fire? Were they trying to spot the tent to figure out where it was, to figure out where to walk back from?
And break off a bunch of branches on the way up? Like, dude, that would be super hard.
Maybe one of them fell.
But you said there's no lacerations. It's such a mystery,
It's
man.
a mystery.
Like, every time I hear about this, I go like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. This doesn't really add up.
Mm-hmm. I think somebody went up the tree to try and spot the camp. That's what or spot conditions. All right.
Okay.
I'm moving on to the next thing, because I think Soviet weapon test, you don't have any particular thoughts about that. You just had a lot of very general thoughts about the situation.
I mean, the whole thing is just nagging me.
Let's talk about
on the simple points.
Let's talk about wind.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about wind.
This is more of a recent theory. There's actually 2 related wind theories. And these are where we're getting into things where I would consider to be like pretty plausible explanations for what's happened here. Strong winds and unique geography in that area create a certain type of very, very strong wind called a Catabatic Wind, which
sounds made up.
Could either create 2 things. One is, some people say it could create infrasound. Do you know what infrasound is?
That's like a sound that's not registerable on the human hearing spectrum.
Yeah, it's imperceivable or imperceptible. But supposedly can cause a sense of dread or panic. I'm not sure how much stock I put into this whole thing. It sounds kind of new wavy and
no, I've heard about that. Like,
yes.
They can have like subliminal noises that will actually cause panic in animals and people. Like, they think it's what animals hear before like a earthquake or something.
Oh, maybe. Well, maybe there is something to it. But maybe something like that happened and it drove them out of the tent. Or a strong current of wind kind of kicked up. So I guess what happens is, as the wind goes down the mountain, in certain scenarios, it just can really pick up speed very, very suddenly. It can seem like the wind can go from strong to like hurricane strong winds. So a theory is that they're in their tent, all of a sudden the winds just kick up like crazy. They think that they're in danger of the whole tent blowing over and kind of knocking them down the mountain. You wouldn't want to do that in a tent full of people, so in the panic, they cut their way out at a certain point. Now, so this gets everybody out of the tent and heading towards what they think is shelter, which is going to be their closest bet for shelter, which is going to be the tree line. So everybody walks towards the tree line. They probably think it's a lot closer than it is. It winds up being 1.5 kilometers away. In both scenarios, the 2 least dressed people stay near this makeshift fire that they've made. Somebody's obviously gone up into the tree to have a peek at something, or maybe to gather wood from higher in the tree, thinking that maybe there were some dead branches or something up there that they were trying to get at to burn. Either way, somebody goes up the tree, breaks some branches while they're doing it. The 2, like we said, the 2 least dressed people huddle closer and closer to this fire, while maybe the rest of the group is in disagreement about what to do. Maybe some of the people think, hey, we should head further into the forest, get a break from the wind, find shelter somewhere in there, and maybe got a group of people saying, no, we got to go back to the tent and we got to get our warm clothes and stuff there. And maybe they can't agree and they go their separate ways. One group freezes on their way back to the tent. The other group goes further into the forest, maybe because it was dark and they couldn't see where they were going. Who knows? But they end up either falling through the snow or walking off the side of an embankment, falling 9 or so feet, 3 meters, enough to hurt them badly.
4 people, though, at the same time.
Enough to hurt them badly enough so that they can't get away. And then, and that's that. Everybody has died in their own, separate ways. Now, it's worth mentioning, too, as we talk about all 4 people, like, the other people only made it, the furthest made it 600 meters before he froze to death, right? So it's not implausible that by the time they fell, they were pretty much on their way out the door anyways. Just throwing that out there. Like, where you can't imagine, like, people who are, like, in great shape, not... Maybe they just, they couldn't see. They were trying to hurry. They just all walked off together or something. Maybe they fell through. Hey, I'm just saying.
So, here's my thing. Okay, couple things still nagging at me.
Okay.
About this stuff. Okay, one, you're hiking with 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe somebody out there is a hiker. They know a lot about this stuff. I'm in a tent with 10 people. Probably not going to be naked unless it's like a different kind of camping trip.
No, when I say naked, I'm not like naked for the conditions. Like, people are wearing like underwear and undershirts, socks.
Oh, God damn it, Matthew.
Yeah.
This whole time I've just been picturing some buck-ass naked people.
I should have known that that's what you would get hung up on.
Well, I mean, you give me a fact, and I take it
at face value,
and I believe it.
Yeah.
At face value. You said they're naked, so I pictured them naked.
I said mostly naked.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you did say mostly naked.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, though, like, you're hiking, it's wintertime. Like,
now, the people who are undressed, to that extent, too, they could be have fallen victim to something called, have you ever heard of paradoxical undressing?
No.
People who experience hypothermia.
I feel like it could get me out of trouble someday.
No. If you are doing paradoxical undressing, you are in a lot of trouble. People who are going through hypothermia, as their nerves shut down in their body, they get a burning sensation. They think they're getting hot, so they'll start undressing. Yeah.
I don't know, though, man. Like, these are experienced people. Okay. Right now,
experienced
outside,
people paradoxically undress when they go through hypothermia. That's just a thing. It's a psychological thing that happens.
But what I'm saying is, you've got 10 people in a tent. That tent's pretty cozy, whether it's windy or not, whether snow falls on it or not.
Hear me out.
Okay.
We don't know when the people who died, who are the most naked, what state of dress they left the tent in. We just know what state. That's not the point. Right? They could have been freezing to death, taken some of their clothes off, and that's where the other people got their clothes from.
Yeah, sure. What I'm saying, though, is, like, I don't think that you could leave your tent because the wind picked up one time, like one storm over the night or something, right? The wind picks up, and you run away from your tent. I don't think you're going to freeze to death in 600 meters. Like, it's minus 10 outside. Feels like minus 16. I could go walk across the whole city, and I'd be fine.
I disagree. And we're talking minus 40 without the wind chill in northern Russia.
Okay, like, that's significantly colder.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, people live... I mean, dude, out west.
Are you arguing against hypothermia as a thing? Like,
I'm not arguing
what's your
against
end goal
hypothermia.
here?
I don't see these, like, experienced hikers running away from a wind gust like a kilometer and then freezing to death.
Okay, so you don't like that theory.
I don't like that theory because I don't think... I mean, maybe... Okay, if you fell in water...
Well, they'd cut their way out of their tent at this point.
And that's the other thing. Like, why are they cutting themselves out of the tent? For wind.
Well, if they thought that the wind was going to pick the whole tent up and send them tumbling down...
Let's cut our only tent open?
Hmm?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I don't love that one either. So I got a couple more. I got at least 2 more for you here.
Okay.
How about this one? What if it was smoke? So they had this one comes from a video of a guy named Lemino, who does great videos to the internet. But there was an oven in their tent, a stove that had an exhaust that went out. Let's say maybe they'd closed the exhaust for the night, and then for whatever reason they thought the embers in the stove were out, but they relit themselves. Sure. And all of a sudden, the tent starts filling with smoke. They don't know if it's...
But it doesn't burn down.
They don't know if it's on fire, but they just know that they wake up and they're covered in smoke. They can't find the opening because they can't see. So somebody finally just maybe tries to cut the top of the tent. They can't... That's not letting it out fast enough, so eventually they just cut the whole side of the tent open. They get out of there. They think their tent's burning down. So they start walking towards shelter, the closest place that they know where shelter is. Again.
No, I hate this theory.
Well, how do you get them? Okay, so how do you get them out of the tent?
Special forces.
You just think it's ghosts?
Terrified the shit out of these people.
I think they're...
Dude, it just... I mean, honestly, you're camping, you're an experienced outdoor person, you got a gust of wind, and you go fucking crazy and, abandon your camp and separate. And then
are you listening?
You're telling me that... No. I'm getting to it because they're both stupid theories for the same reason. And then you're telling me that somebody has a smoky tent, and they cut it open, and then... Not only do they just cut open their tent and get out, but now they're all separated and everything's fucked up.
No, they all clearly go together. All the footprints are going together to the first tree. To the tree where the 2 people died. They all went there first. It's then they split up for some reason.
I don't know. I just don't see it, man. You have a smoky tent, but it's not burning. So you cut it open, you get out, you look at your tent, which isn't on fire.
Here's some information. Here's some information for you that I should have included earlier. 4 of them were intoxicated.
Still don't see it.
Okay.
I don't see... I think of what I would do. I think my tent's on fire. Okay, first of all, it's a tent. Fuck it. It'll, burn around you in, 10 seconds.
And I think
have you ever watched that shit light up?
I think you really are underestimating how dangerous it is to get burning latex on you.
I know, but it's a tent, man, and you've cut out of it, and you get out of it, and it's smoking, and this tent, which isn't really when you get down to it, it's not like a structure with wood and furniture and stuff. I mean, it's a piece of canvas, or it's a piece of...
So it's a piece of extremely flammable canvas that's got their kerosene and gas and all of their clothes.
Which hasn't burned.
But they don't know that. Right? You're dealing with a complete set of facts after the fact. They're dealing with panicking in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And then making survival decisions based on thinking they don't have a tent for whatever reason.
But why would you leave the tent? You've cut yourself out of it, and then you go you turn around and you're oh, it's not burning. Maybe I should just stand here because this is my fucking tent.
Well, maybe you'll like my last theory then.
All right, because I don't see it.
Last theory is, it turns out that the way that they built the tent into the ground. Remember, right way back at the beginning, I'd included that detail for a very specific reason. Included that detail about how they had kind of leveled the ground into the side of this mountain to build their tent on level ground. So what happened, some people think, is that as it snowed that night, there was a snowstorm that night, a layer of fresh snow kind of built up between the tent, the wall of the tent as it sloped up, and the slope of the mountain that they had kind of carved out to.
So like a drift over top of their tent.
A kind of drift starting to form, mostly on the wall, that the tent was beside, but also kind of starting to form over top. And coupled with that wind that we'd talked about earlier, apparently that creates excellent conditions for something called a slab avalanche. What happens with a slab avalanche is kind of like what it sounds like. You ever be like driving your car and it's got snow all over it, and all of a sudden, some of it clears and like a whole slab of it will just fly off the back of your car? Imagine that happening, but it's an avalanche. It doesn't leave a whole lot of stuff behind, but like a whole shelf of snow will break off at once. So what these people think happened, these scientists who've looked into it, is that this slab avalanche started. There would have been some people sleeping with kind of their head towards the wall, the snow wall, and they would have been fine. But anybody who was sleeping the other way, who had their head towards away from the wall, their feet towards the wall, they would have had this huge slab of snow land on them and basically crush them, which would explain the chest injuries that two of them had, the head injury that one of them had. Not bad enough to kill them, but bad enough to hurt them, cause some internal bleeding. You'd certainly be in a lot of pain. So this avalanche happens. They don't know if there's another one going to happen. They cut their way out of their tent because at this point the tent's broken. They don't know how to even get up. The safest place to go, if because they're on the side of an exposed mountain, if they think that there is an avalanche, would be to get to the tree line at that point, because it would break up any snow that's coming. So they go to the tree line. They try to light a fire there. They're freezing. Maybe at that point, okay, well, what do we do? Some people saying, let's go back to the tent. There hasn't been another avalanche. Maybe it's safe. Some people saying that's dumb. Let's go further into the forest. We can get warmer there. We can break up the wind. They go their separate ways, and everyone dies in their own way. To me, that's the most plausible. Covers all of the bases. It covers the injuries that some people had. It covers why they would have left the tent and not gone immediately back if they thought that they were at immediate risk for another avalanche.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that sounds kind of more plausible to me, because like when you say these other things, it's like you're not just going to leave your tent because it's windy and just be like, fuck, see you later, or smoky, whatever. But that makes sense why you would leave. Because that's the one thing that always bothered me was like, I'm like, why would you leave?
Yeah, why would you leave? Leave quick.
But here's my thing that also bothers me about that theory is you're telling me that there was an avalanche and a storm and a bunch of wind, and yet you're finding their footprints 2 weeks later?
Well, because the avalanche would have already happened. And so here's what I think, and here's why maybe this, because of the type of avalanche it was, it probably scooped off the top layer of loose snow. So any of their footprints are going into the kind of harder packed snow that's been there, And
maybe. Or maybe it's Bigfoot.
Because there wasn't much snow on the tent, so it seems to be that there wasn't a whole lot of snow after the fact anyways. Hey,
I don't know,
no explanation is going to tick all the boxes, right?
No, and that's what makes this story super interesting. The first time I heard it, like I always think of it in terms of like a horror movie. Right? Like my imagination runs away with it, and I'm like, what would have scared those people?
I like
so
the outlandish
bad?
theories, but I think of it as it's a survival story. You know, it's people in a tent encountering some sort of weather phenomenon or something, having, you know.
The final theory to me seems more legit. Like, it ticks off a lot of the boxes. It answers a lot of the things that like nag at me, you know, about not so much about the footprints, but about the, like, why would you leave your tent?
Yeah.
Like, why
leave all your stuff?
Tent? I still, and then you kind of wonder, like, the people who are naked for the elements. Like, I don't know, man. It was, like I said, it was like -5, -10 today. And, like, taking my coat off or, like, unzipping your coat and stuff, it's very unpleasant. Like, I don't think I would want to sleep in -40 with anything less than all my clothes on. I wouldn't think, right? Or maybe you would. Maybe you would want to be like, because they say if you have hypothermia, you're supposed to be like almost like skin to skin contact, right?
Yeah, they say if you've been in water, particularly because but yeah, your clothes can get in the way of getting heat directly or getting heat quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe they were wet and they had to kind of strip down because.
Yeah,
it's a weird story, man.
It's a weird story. Maybe they had really great sleeping bags, and you know they stripped right down to their skivvies when they were in their sleeping bags. I can't imagine it, but I've never gone camping in -40-degree weather.
I've done some winter camping before when I was a kid, and I mean we had like big like army type tents, right?
Yeah.
So you could change or whatever in them, but I remember having to sleep with my toothpaste at the bottom of my sleeping bag, otherwise it would be frozen in the morning.
Uh-huh. All right.
But it's such a weird story, man. Like, I don't know. First time I heard it, I was so just mystified by it. So that's one of those stories where you're just like, what the fuck? That's real?
Yeah.
Especially when you hear it with all the details, like, this guy had some radiation on him. Like, these injuries. You know, where they find the bodies and whatnot. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. So, I got a musing for you today.
All right.
And you know what my musing is? It's about an experience that I've had. It's going to surprise you, Kevin.
God.
It's about travel. And here's what I want to muse about, because as I had said earlier, you know, and said to you many times, I am and have been very afraid of flying. Like, paranoia. I was kind of laughing at myself because as we got closer and closer to going, I was saying I'm acting like I'm Chuck Yeager, you know, and I'm just getting on a plane to Mexico.
Break the sound barrier.
Yeah, something that like I'm not doing an experimental flight. I'm doing something that people do all the time. And you know what? At the end of the day, having conquered my fear and gotten on that plane, it wasn't that bad. You know, like I got there at the airport. It was a little much at first, but I got over it. You know, I had my kid with me, so I was kind of in parenting mode. You know, I got on the plane. It was no big deal. I had an Ambien. It was fine.
I'm super glad you didn't drink with that, man. I was just waiting for the news reports of like naked pale Canadian man.
You know what? I did have
flight to Mexico.
I think I had a Bud Light on the plane, and at like the 2-hour mark or something, which would have been at like 10 in the morning.
Maybe that's not bad.
But yeah, no, I did. I was freaking out on the way back. I had one at like we were flying back at 2 PM, and I had one at like 9. I was so worried. I was still not a good traveler at all. But I would do it again. Like it was totally fine. Wherever you go, there you are, right? You're still going to be nervous, but But no, I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I only had 10 days to think about doing it.
There is an evil part of me that wanted to tell you to watch, or send you clips from Discovery Channel's Mayday.
Oh,
You ever watch Mayday?
Oh yeah, I've seen a ton of it. Yeah.
I love Mayday.
Yep.
And it horrifies the shit out of me. Like,
Oh yeah.
hey, this scraped landing from 1979 caused the air disaster in 1994 because the rivets from the patch. Like, it's like, God damn it! Like, this maintenance worker. Actually, funny story is like, you know how like I've been an industrial mechanic and stuff. Like, my goal when I was a kid was to be either a pilot or to work on planes, like, you know, jet engines and stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of got some of that. Like, I've worked on some turbines, which is super cool. Same thing, just a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously, a jet engine is a turbine. Anyhow, the one biggest thing was, like, I was like, I know who I am. I know I have the memory of a goldfish. I know that, like, I would never be okay if I was the guy who didn't tighten up that bolt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this. This is, you know what? There's way more mature, responsible, focused people for this than me.
For sure.
Yeah, you see that, and it's crazy. I'm glad your flight went better than the Microsoft flight sim I tried for you. So we'll see what this flight's like.
I imagine my landing was better. Landing coming back into Toronto, we landed in like the worst ice storm that we've had in years. So that was fun. Watching the weather radar going like, okay, that's what I'm flying into, and I'm gonna drive home 2 hours, after that. So that was fun.
Welcome back.
Absolute white knuckler on the highway.
Man, Toronto is a 2.5 hour drive. I remember in trade school, it was an 8 hour drive for me once.
Oh yeah, it took me 3 hours to get to where I am. It was no good.
That's crazy.
It was no good.
I got a closing fact for you, Matt.
Alrighty.
So this is another one of the schmacks that I made up. So originally, so at first, when I said the fact schmacked about Siri being, part of DARPA or whatever,
Yeah.
that was my original schmack for the show. And then I looked it up and realized that it was true.
Yeah.
Right? And so we, full disclosure, that happened about a minute before Matt called me on Discord. So we had a little bit of a flub starting to the show with the fact schmacks there. And then I went to make another one, and it turned out that this was also a fact. Apple, if it were a country, would have the 7th largest GDP. Well, at 8. Okay, yeah,
7
8.
countries ahead of it.
7 countries ahead of it.
Yeah.
And I literally wrote down 7, and then I was like, I better double check this one.
So it would have been
God
wrong.
damn it. It would have been wrong, but like not wrong enough for a good schmack.
Yeah, it would have been unfair.
So anyhow, I was just thinking to myself, like, man, like one company has that much cheddar.
I know, and they can't give me $1 million.
So interesting fact I read in that, they have enough cash on hand to just give every American $410 or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, that's so insane.
Well, when Microsoft bought Activision there, all the reading about that, everyone talking about how, well, they just had like $280 million sitting cash on hand. And they were going to lose 7% of it to inflation this year anyway, so you might as well go out and make a big acquisition. Jeez. Might as well go out and spend $80 billion.
Something's got to give, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. $280 billion.
Yeah. I'm going to save all my anti-capitalist communist comments for after the recording.
In Soviet Russia, recording ends you.
And good night.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening to Fact Smacks.
We hope you enjoyed our show. If you want to hear more, be sure to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/factschmacks.
Or you can check us out on Facebook or on YouTube or on twitter.com @FactSchmackedPod.
We also have a website, factschmacks.xyz, because we know you haven't had enough yet.
Sure.